Good evening. This is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is the Bigger Picture webinar for the evening of Sunday, the 28th of December. This is a video for paying subscribers at Charting the Markets, CTM The Bigger Picture.substack.com. It's published on YouTube after a delay of a week, and my disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some what I'm doing and learn from it, transfer it to your own charts, and I'm not here to issue trading signals. Right, now the bullish tape, which we've had all week, is now going to be tailing off. We've got actually a mildly bearish leaning day on Monday. We've got another one on Tuesday, only mildly, but a slight tilt from neutral. And we've got a definitely bearish leaning day on Wednesday. Obviously, Thursday is a holiday. And on Friday, we've got a neutral day. So we've got more of a bearish tilt. So one thing I would mention right off the bat is that we've got a 60-minute sell signal fixed on ES, and we've got another one fixed on NQ. Now, we haven't made the upside targets I'm looking for yet, and I'm still looking for those to be made. We have made that target on SPX, which, although it doesn't look like it on the ES chart, has actually made a new all-time high. And we've made, obviously, this IHS target broke up with a target in the 6970 area, and obviously that's been made too. What we haven't made is the IHS target on NQ, and I'd still quite like to see a new all-time high there, but maybe getting it on SPX would be close enough. And we've already had that. We've also got an IHS which is broken up on RTY, which hasn't made target, and we've got one also that's broken up on YM with a target up at a retest of this high, and that hasn't made target either. So honestly, it's been more weak than I was expecting, and we may find it gets weaker and some of these patterns start failing. Not the double bottom on YM, but the RTY IHS, if we see start seeing some downside, it's pretty vulnerable to failing, and also the one on NQ potentially could fail, although obviously we're quite a long way away from the right shoulder low, which is down all the way down here. All right, looking at DAX and the STX. DAX, we've got an IHS which is broken up with a target at a retest of the December high. I'm a little... Yeah, I think that one's okay. This is only slightly too small. I'm much more doubtful about the ESTX one, which actually you can see the target of the retest of the prior high is actually only halfway to the main target. So I think this one is too large. But we've got a number of IHSs here, and actually the only one that's made target yet so far is SPX, which I'm a bit surprised about. I was expecting it to be stronger. All right, let's have a look at these on the bigger picture charts. Okay, looking at ES. ES, nice move up. No current negative divergence. We've got no negative divergence on SPX either. Looking at the 15-minute chart, we've made all targets. We've made the retest of the all-time high. We've got another 20 points higher. Obviously, we made the IHS target, and everything's either failed or made target. All right, looking at the Qs. Qs, we haven't made the obvious target yet. Obviously, we're back over the daily middle band, although, to be honest, we're not getting an awful lot above it. No divergence on the hourly chart. On the 15-minute chart, where we have got a couple of open 15-minute sell signals, but this isn't one of them. We did have an IHS here, which has made target. We've made it up to nearly the retest of the prior high, but at the moment, no further. Now, I'm not seeing an obvious trend line here later, but I am wondering if we might find resistance here. Let's have a look at Dia. Dia, no current negative divergence. Getting pretty close to the retest of the high, and I really expect to make this one. As you can see, we are really not far away. On the 15-minute chart, we have a target back up at a retest of the high, and we haven't made it yet. If we don't see a bearish Monday, this is the sort of thing we could actually knock off quite easily on Monday. All right, let's have a look at the IWM chart. Okay, IWM, we've got on the daily chart, no current negative divergence, and we're not close to any. In fact, we're still testing the daily middle band, albeit higher than when we tested it a few days ago. This has been surprisingly weak. We've got a pretty decent looking IHS. It broke up, actually got fairly close to the target on the on this RTH chart, but didn't quite make it. This looks like a bull flag forming here, but obviously we're moving into an area where the tape is likely to be less strong. So it's very possible that we could see these break down. We shall see. Looking at DAX, moved away pretty nicely away from the 50 DMA and the and the daily middle band. We have possible target at a retest of the high here, but doesn't necessarily need to get there. We do have a possible alternate head and shoulders forming here, where this would be the left shoulder, this would be the head, and this would be the right shoulder, and we've already got up into the right area for that. Looking at Nikkei, Nikkei, if this is a bullish triangle, I think rather looks like one, then we're breaking up, and I would have a target at a retest of this high here at 52.6. So we shall see how that goes. All right, great. Let's have a look at DX. Okay, DX, we've got we had a pattern that broke up and failed, and we've now got a really nice looking double bottom. 60-minute buy signal has reached the possible near miss target. We're forming a possible short-term IHS. I am wondering about a reversal back up here. And we do have some support for that on the bigger picture charts. Let's have a quick look at the currencies. So bear with me a sec. All right, Euro, nice looking double top here. Nothing particularly helpful in the way of signals. We've got a nice looking double top here, and we've actually got a pretty nice looking double top here, which is trying to break down at the moment, although that could be read as an alternate head and shoulders, but I'd prefer to read it as a double top. So this is quite a nice pattern if this is going to go down. GBP, which it would do, of course, if DX goes up. GBP USD, finding resistance at a wedge resistance here. This could easily go down. Nice looking little double top there. On USD JPY, honestly, I was kind of expecting this to retest this high here, and it hasn't done it. And that looks like unfinished business, but we've got a weak 60-minute buy signal here to reach the possible near miss target. Maybe we could be forming a larger pattern, maybe, but if we're going to see a hard reversal back down, I would have expected to retest this high first. Looking at USD CAD, nice looking falling wedge, although obviously I've drawn in a number of options for the support trend line. I'm not wildly happy with any of them, although this one here in the middle is the nicest. So we will see how that goes. We've got a 60-minute buy signal fixed. Obviously, if the dollar's going to reverse back up, this would tend to reverse back up with it. And actually, so thinking about it, of course, so would a USD JPY. So if we do see a reverse back up, then of course it will have its opportunity to retest the high. Australian dollar, possible wedge forming here, no particularly decent trend lines unless it goes higher. 6-minute sell signal fixed, and a 6-minute sell signal fixed has already reached the possible near miss target on NZUSD. I think there's a reasonable case for these turning around. We will see. All right, let's have a look at, hang on, might as well close this down. No, I'm not using anymore. All right, let's have a look at the US dollar chart. Okay, USD chart. Obviously, we've got this, I've been talking all year, actually, about this very nice looking bull flag, and we went down, we underthrew slightly, broke down slightly below this megaphone support, and that would be the perfect time for this to break up and head back up and retest this high. But obviously, the administration's policies aren't terribly dollar positive, and that's been weighing it down. We have got a nice looking double bottom which has broken up, and we may be rejecting back into the low. We will see, but if we are going to see a breakup, then this is the last chance to do it. I think we've already had a decent opportunity, and we had a lovely RSI 5 buy signal, and that didn't really get any traction. So if we're going to do it, we've got a nice looking double bottom, we've got an opportunity here. If we fail to rally here, I think we're going to go back and retest the low, and it could be that we would start seeing a breakdown from there. Certainly, I think, I think to a certain extent, the huge precious metals move we are seeing is kind of the inverted confidence in the US dollar, which is not particularly high. And there's no particular reason for it to be. The administration is not being a good custodian of the dollar. The independence of the Fed looks as though it's going to be lasting maybe until May, but may even disappear before then. So after that, Trump's going to have someone in charge, and he'll issue his instructions, and the Fed chairman will do what he's told. So at that stage, independence is out the window. All right. We do still have a very nice bullish setup here, though. And we've got a nice mirroring bearish setup on USD. We've got a nice mirroring bearish setup on GBP USD. These are nice, but nice doesn't mean it makes target. And nice can't necessarily get past the policies of an administration, which is kind of pushing in the other direction. Looking at USD/JPY, I'd still quite like to see a retest this high, whatever happens. So that would set up a very nice looking double top if we were to see it. USD CAD, we have been forming this double top for an age. So we could go back and retest this high, but I'm doubtful about it getting much higher than that. And to be honest, we could break down directly from here. Australian dollar, we have a very slight break over this wedge resistance, this channel resistance, which is pretty nice channel. I'm leaning towards seeing some more upside from here, but we don't necessarily need to get up. NZUSD, this has been forming a consolidation triangle for 5 years. So we haven't broken out of it yet. I'm thinking one way or another, when the US dollar does pick a direction, we will probably see a break in the triangle, which really I'd probably be inclined to see as a continuation triangle, i.e. With a lean to the downside. We'll see how that goes. All right, great. Let's have a look at bonds. Okay, let's have a look at ZB. ZB, we've got a potential level bottom here, but we've got obviously a larger head and shoulders, which is already broken down with the target in the 112.84 area. We've got a potential, just looks like a bear flag here, and we've already got a double top, which is broken down with a target in the 110.17 to 110.12 area. We will see how that goes, but looking at the bigger picture. All right, TYX. Short term, this is bullish. This looks like a bull flag, which is breaking up, and an IHS, which is also breaking up, although the bull flag target's obviously at a retest of 51.53, and the little IHS, which is broken up, has got a target in about the 50.2 area. All right, looking at TNX. TNX, we've got an IHS which is forming here. But hasn't broken up yet, although there is an alternate read where it has already broken up, with these two as the right shoulders. And I have to say either of those would be valid here. But I'm leaning towards this one with the straight neckline, because it is a very straight neckline, and I'll always tend towards those if they are available. We will see how this develops, but in this particular instance, it hasn't broken up. This does look like a consolidation triangle, though, and the lean would be, I think, to the upside, and my lean would certainly be to the upside. In the short term, I've drawn in the IHS that may have already broken up. If that has, then that would have a target in about the 43.90 area. All right, FVX, I've added this one because this is the 5-year treasury. The other two, obviously, TYX is the 30-year treasury. TNX is a 10-year treasury. And I wanted to see the 5-year treasury as well, because we've been in a long consolidation here, and I'm just looking around for more clues. This looks like a consolidation triangle, which ultimately would resolve higher. This is what I would expect. With the Fed losing its independence, which seems to be coming, at that point, it's going to reduce confidence in the dollar. It's going to reduce confidence in US treasuries, and that's going to whatever. I mean, I think Trump's idea is that he takes over the Fed puts down interest rates to 1%, and the government can borrow at 1%. This is pure fantasy. That's not the way it works at all. The government borrows at whatever price the bond market sets, and that is only to a limited degree influenced by the Fed. And actually, in the last year and a half, the Fed has cut rates multiple times, and overall rates are actually up. So I was predicting the same thing in a post a year ago, and it happened then too. This is likely to resolve higher sooner or later, and the more reckless the administration is, the faster it'll likely happen. All right, TLT. Daily chart, not a lot to see. This could be a bear flag breaking down, but really it's too large to be a bear flag. What are the pattern setups here? We've got a very nice looking head and shoulders, which is broken down, and until demonstrated otherwise, I'm kind of assuming that'll make target in the 85.10 area. Overall, my lean is bonds down, yields up. All right, let's have a look at CL. Okay, CL, we had a nice spike up here on basically the US starting to seize tankers coming to and from Venezuela. Gotta say, this is an interesting one, because while it's being pitched as sanctions being enforced, there's a lot of international law basically saying, that the international waters are international waters, and all countries are free to go in there. So actually, technically, it's piracy. It's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. Not sure that would worry this particular administration, but we'll see. But in the meantime, we were seeing the oil price moving up from there. But I was saying that there was a pretty good case for it coming back and retesting the low. And at the moment, we've given half of this back already, and it may well be on the way, the rest of the way back. HO, we had a double bottom break up, and that fell, and we're back retesting the lows already. In terms of, we had sell signals on all of these, and all of these made target on Friday. On RBOB, we had a decent rally, and we've given 2/3 of that back, and we may well be about to give back the rest. NG, which I've actually rolled on into the February contract. This looks rather different than it did on the February contract. There I had an IHS which broke up and made target. Here, this looks rather different. I've actually got a possible IHS, which is, no, it was a double bottom, I think, that broken up and made target. Here, I've got a larger IHS, which would still be forming and would break up on a move over 4. So I've drawn that in. I'm watching with interest. I'm slightly skeptical about a big move to the upside. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. And we have a... on the monthly chart, obviously, we've got the falling wedge that I've been talking about for, well, most of 2025. And we saw a break up, and we've come back, and we've now done a full retest of the low. We could go lower, but we do have, it has to be said, a pretty nice fucking double top right here, right now. And on a sustained break over 78.40, that would actually have a target at about the 100 area. 100.4 area rather, and that, I think, in my view, actually would be a credible target, because I think we've got a number of things which should really affect oil prices, particularly if we see real trouble happening in Russia, where Ukraine is night after night knocking out more of their oil refining capacity. I think we could see a major collapse in Russia. Or alternatively, possibly they could win the war, but it seems more likely that the Russians appear to be losing, and that we might see a collapse similar to the one we had in the Soviet Union, which could actually take all of Russia's oil offline for a while. And if that's the case, if they stop pumping, it'll all freeze up, and then it'll take Western money and a vast amount of money, and some expectation from Western customers that they won't get robbed again next time and not get any of their money back. So could be a tall order. That could take 9 million barrels a day, which is a significant amount of the world market, and that could set up a price, a serious rally, which could get us back over 100. We will see. Now, obviously, if we can get back over 100, that actually might win the war for the Russians. But I think the most likely thing to get us back to 100 would probably be the collapse of the Russians. In terms of heating oil, we've got a nice looking falling wedge there too. We had an IHS which broke up and it failed. Is this a possible alternate IHS forming? It is, possibly, yes. Although really, it would be cleaner if we did a retest of the low. We shall see. Looking at gas oil, the wedge here has actually redrawn it because we got back to wedge support, but this potentially is a bullish underthrow. We will see. I'm not really expecting prices to get down much further from here. I think at this stage, I think quite a lot of US manufacturers and manufacturers elsewhere, producers of oil, are actually producing at a marginal profit or even at a loss. And I think quite a lot of the US would be producing at a loss under 60, and certainly an awful lot of them under 50. In terms of fracking, in terms of oil sands in Canada, I mean, really, 50 is about the starting point that it needs to be at. So I'm not really thinking it can fall much lower than that, but I am thinking it's got a decent prospect of seeing a very, very serious rally. In terms of gas oil, this is a potential level bottom. We'll see how that goes. What this could turn right here. Heating oil could turn right here. It might be that we didn't go down any further than this and we started moving up from here. We will see. I don't think the Russians are ready to collapse, but once the setup is ready, I think certainly there's a possibility that Russia just falls apart at some point in 2026 because its economy is a disaster. And we will see. But certainly the setup would be there to take advantage of it. All right, looking at natural gas, we saw a very big rally last month, most of which was given back. So we'll see how that goes. We are testing a couple of important areas. We've got test of the 200-week moving average at the moment, and we are holding that. We will see how it goes, but I think we've had a big move down. We've had a rally, but it could still be that this was the big move up and that was the retracement, and we're going to resume the uptrend. My lean would be, though, that this was probably a pretty strong rejection. We will see. As I said, I've got an IHS forming on the possible IHS forming on the hourly chart. I'm not really seeing anything much on the daily. We did have an RSI 5 buy signal, but that's reached possible near miss target now. That's more or less it in terms of signals. All right, let's have a look at GC. Okay, GC, we are going higher. We're at new all-time highs as expected. We're moving higher. SI is on a tear, and you know what? It's one of my when my daughter was at school, she had a friend who wanted to intern with me for a couple of weeks to, just get some work experience and stuff and have a look at markets. She was thinking of a career in finance, and I remember I was talking to her about what I thought the amazing prospects were for silver were, and I think it was about $14 at the time. And I was talking about the possibility that it could go on a move and reach 200 because I thought the prospects for it was so good because of the many applications for it. You know what? Here it is at 80. And it's not been a slow move getting here. Obviously, it took a while after the after that talk I was having to my daughter's friend, but this has been one hell of a move. And actually, I still think that 200 is credible, and I think in the absence of a trustworthy custodian of the dollar, I think all the precious metals have got decent prospects, and I think this is now acting as a precious metal, and I think palladium's acting as a precious metal. I think platinum's acting as a precious metal too, and these are all making some fairly wild moves, and I think these can continue for a while. Or I am starting to think that we might start the higher we go, the more likely it is that we're going to get a retracement, even if this is just consolidation before it goes higher. In terms of platinum, this has actually made my IHS target, which just sounded pretty wild when I gave it. HG has gone higher as well, and I'm wondering about this. This is coming back in for a retest of the high. Now, I've really been thinking about this as a building material, but actually it's quite important in building data centers as well. And the obviously the alternative energy build out. So maybe this is why copper's going up. So I'm watching to see what happens when it gets back to the retest with great interest. We shall see. All right, let's have a look at that on the bigger picture chart. So, okay. Gold heading higher at the moment. Obviously, we had the consolidation triangle. It moved up. I'm not seeing any particular reason to think it's about to turn round, but it is getting we are getting into fairly rarefied territory on the daily RSI 5. Could easily go higher. All right, looking at silver. Wow. We had a sell signal here that failed. The last RSI 5 sell signal made target. We had the two before that failed. It's and we have what a wild move this has been. Up from 45.55 and buff, up we are at 80. This hasn't necessarily stopped, although it's at the moment it can't continue to go straight up like this for long, obviously. In terms of palladium, I drew in this IHS a few weeks ago when we were about here, and since then it has broken up from the IHS. It's got a target in about the 2550 area, and it's actually got halfway there in a very, very short time. So obviously the target is a 2550, and that's still got some way to go, and really I think it's got legs. I think it's going to make it. So I think that is a credible target, and I'm looking for it. In terms of the daily chart, we've got a possible RSI 14 sell signal brewing on this little spike up. We've now got some negative divergence. Doesn't mean we're going to turn, though. It just means we've got some negative divergence. In terms of platinum, obviously I drew this in a while ago. I think I drew this in when we were forming this triangle. No, I drew it in here after we'd made this and we were pulling back into the right shoulder. And I was talking about this as a potential inverted head and shoulders, and it's now, last week, it made the main target, which was basically a retest of 2290, and then it made the extended target, which was just under 2500. wow. This has been a very impressive run. And from when we were forming this triangle, it's now more than doubled. So obviously, silver's done the same, so it's not wildly impressive, but nonetheless, it is impressive. We are obviously getting very overbought short term, but really at this stage, I'm looking at the palladium target, which is still somewhere above. But I am thinking we might see a retracement soon. In terms of copper, I was talking a couple of weeks ago about the possibility we'd come back and retest this high at 5.94, and I now think that's likely. We've got, hang on, sorry, I've missed it on this chart, but there's an RSI 5 sell signal on the monthly chart. No, I haven't missed it on the chart. It's because we haven't reached the end of the month yet, but this may well be failing. RSI 14 one still looks all right. On the daily chart, we had an RSI 14 sell signal, and that failed. We had an RSI 5 sell signal, and that failed. That's impressive. I'm inclined to respect the uptrend, and I'm still very much looking for a retest of 5.936, and I'm considering the possibility it isn't going to turn there. I have to say we had a lovely setup for this to go down, including multiple signals. Those signals have failed. And that is what it is. Now, when we retest the high, we've got a very nice potential looking double top here, but I have to say, in the absence of what's happening with the signals here, and particularly if we lose this monthly one at the end of this month, then that's a lot of the support for it going down will have gone. We'll have to see. All right, GDX heading higher. We've got weekly sell signals brewing, and we've got the same on weekly on the GDXJ chart. We've already made a very impressive new high over this high here at 58.50, and obviously we've gone through that and left it far behind. GDXJ is still getting back into its high here. I've got that up at 130.80, and it looks like we're going to be reaching that probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Daily charts, no current negative divergence. Hourly charts, no current negative divergence. I'm not seeing anything really suggesting this is going to turn around, but I am aware that we're going to be having a retracement we're going to see a pullback, some sort of consolidation at some point in the not too distant future. All right, let's have a look at the other commodities. All right, KC. KC, the 60-minute buy signal has reached the possible near miss target. Could this be an IHS forming? Possibly, but really it doesn't really look like anything. So I think we're just waiting to see where this goes from here. Bigger picture, I'm leaning to the downside. Sugar still looks like a flag forming, still hasn't reached my double bottom target in 15.43 area, although we got pretty close. We got up to 15.35. I still think this is a bear flag forming on the bigger picture, which is very credible on the sugar bigger picture. Looking at CC, still got a nice looking double bottom here, still hasn't broken up. On the CT chart, we've got a very nice looking double bottom here, and we're getting close to it breaking up. I'm quite liking this to break up and make the target, which would be up here in about the 67 area, I think, or slightly higher. In terms of lumber, we had an IHS which broke up. It failed. This looks like a bear flag forming, and very much on the bigger picture, I'm leaning towards the downside. Lumber very much is a very building material, and that is suffering for a lack of demand. Is it going to be a big issue in alternative energy? Not as far as I'm aware. All right, CW. Nice looking flooring channel here, which is broken up. Expecting to see some follow through to the downside, not seeing a clear reversal pattern here, although arguably this is an IHS. And maybe I should be seeing as that. If so, this would have a target in about the 535 area. All right, corn. We've got a triangle here, which is broken up with a target at a retest of this high here, which I've got in about the 457 area. Not seeing anything compelling suggesting we aren't going to make that. Soy. This looks like a bear flag forming so far. Not seeing a really obvious reversal pattern. Could go higher, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this head back and retest the lows, and the Chinese still aren't buying much in the way of soybeans. In terms of soybean oil, we've got a double bottom which is broken up with a target in the 50.45 to 50.68 area. Had a buy signal, that's already made target, so waiting to see if this is going to deliver to the upside. We shall see. All right, live cattle, still it's consolidating sideways. We still have a potential level top here if we see a breakdown below this double top support in about the 227 area. And on lean hogs, breaking down slightly below this rising support, which could signal a larger retracement. On the bigger picture, though, we've got a large double bottom which is broken up in the with a target in the 88.65 to 90.2 area. I'm not seeing anything compelling to say we aren't going to make that target. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture. So let's have a look at, let's have a look at the coffee chart. Okay, coffee, we've obviously got a double top, which is broken down with a target in about the 2.65 area. We could see that make target quite easily, and I'm leaning towards the downside because coffee is a long way out of its comfort zone in terms of trading. So I'm thinking I've got to lean to the downside. Nice looking double top that's broken down. We'd have a potential larger double top with support at 2.783. Looking at the daily chart, no current divergence, but a retest this low, we could start setting some up on both the RSI 5 and the RSI 14. Bigger picture, obviously we've got the double top, which is broken down. On sugar, we've got a very large head and shoulders, which is broken down with the target, really, main target would be in the 9 area. And obviously, I've been looking at various possible reversal scenarios here. None of them worked out, and we've just been getting down closer to that target, although not moving towards it very quickly. I'm leaning towards making that target. It's the best pattern on the chart at the moment. I've still got a potential wedge here. It still hasn't failed completely, and it's still not looking that great. And I don't particularly like any kind of reversal pattern from here. In terms of the daily chart, we have still got a weak RSI 14 buy signal fix, and I'm thinking that might make target, but I think we're likely forming a bear flag here. So we shall see. All right, cocoa. We've broken down major support at 6427, and I've now got a pretty strong lean to the downside. I think this is reversing to the mean on the bigger picture. We are seeing a bit of a rally. Daily chart, we had an RSI 14 buy signal. That's reached the possible near miss target. RSI 5 buy signal made target 2, and we made it slightly over this declining resistance, but not a significant break so far. This could be a reversal pattern forming to go higher, and equally, this could just fail into the downside again. On wheat, we have a double bottom which is broken up with a target in the 575 to 580 area, and I'm thinking that's actually got a decent shot at making target as long as it can get back over the daily middle band, which is at 524, and it closed Friday below it. On corn, again, I'm quite liking the upside here. I'm really liking the upside here because we've got a beautiful double bottom. We've now broken with conviction up from this falling wedge. I like the upside, and if we can see a sustained break over 504, then that would have a target, really a minimum target, in about the 625 area. Looking at the daily charts, we've got weak RSI 14 sell signal fixed, not really been doing anything, nothing else. I do have a potential wedge here which I'm watching, but we've also got an IHS which is already broken up with a target in the 495 area. Looking at the soybeans chart, soybeans, obviously we had a deal with China and soy went up a lot, and China's not really been doing anything about buying. I mean, the news was that they were going to buy 12 million tons of US soybeans, but I think they bought 2. And I think the idea was that would be done this year, and well, obviously we're running out of year. I don't think they've done a great deal of that, and obviously soy prices have been coming back down to earth. We did have a sell signal at this last high, RSI 5 and RSI 14. Both of those are made target. Looking at cotton, lovely double bottom here. I've been talking about this for the last 6 months. Hasn't broken up yet, but I still have hopes this will break up soon. In the short term, I'm quite liking the upside, and it looks like we are having a serious crack at breaking over the weekly middle band at 64.24. Looking at lumber, we've got a double top which is broken down with a target in the basically at the bear. This is a bear flag that's been forming for a couple of years. We've got a double top within that. Both of these, when the bear flag breaks down, both of these will have a target basically at a retest this low here at 352.50, with the double top target very slightly above that. This is a compelling setup. Lumber, as far as I'm aware, is not being used for build out AI centers and is not important in terms of renewable energy. I think this is going to go down. And it's a very strong pattern setup for it to do exactly that. In terms of the daily setup, we've got a lovely double top here. It has broken down. We've been going sideways pretty much since then. But we made a lower low here. This looks like a flag or a triangle forming at the moment here, so I'm expecting this to result in a move down in the not too distant future. So we shall see. All right, great. Let's have a look at crypto. Okay, crypto. We haven't really moved from Wednesday, or let's see, and last Sunday. We've got a bear flag here. It has broken down. It didn't make the full target, and I think we're just consolidating sideways until we can have a large enough retracement on equities to allow this to reach the target. And we've got pretty much the same situation on Ethereum, where nice flag channel broke down and just trading sideways since. Solana broke down and actually made the low. And I was wondering if we might see a larger rally, but the setup for that would have been a lot better if Bitcoin and Ethereum had also retested their lows, which they didn't. So at the moment, this is just trading sideways. As and when we start seeing some downside on equities, which I'm thinking probably will be, within weeks. By the end of January, I would have thought we will probably that will free crypto to go down to the targets, which I'm still expecting to get made. Solana has an head and shoulder target at 95.24. Ethereum has a head and shoulder target, which is down in the 2050 area, and Bitcoin, I think, has a pretty decent shot at getting down to much more substantial support in basically at the retest this low here in the 74.4 area. So that's what I'm thinking on crypto, and that is a wrap. So everyone take care. On Wednesday, I'm probably going to do, I haven't decided for sure yet, I'm going to do a webinar. I think I'll do it probably on Thursday, and I'll do a big public webinar looking at some predictions for next year. All right, brilliant. In that case, I will see you then, and everyone take care.